Oh, hello and welcome to What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jakes. I am him, and today we're going to play another round of Idiot versus Insider. I, as always, will be the idiot in this situation. James, NFL Insider, is not going to be joining me on the casting couch here today. We got a solo episode for week 3 of the NFL season. If it's your first time joining us, James and I go face-to-face. He presents the bets, and I tell him if they're dumb or if I agree with them. And at the end of every week, starting last week, we do a lock of the week, and that lock of the week is 1-0. We hit this week with the Washington Commanders, and I took home last week. He beat me in week 1, and I think that's the real reason he's not really joining me here today. It's not because he's stuck in Florida or whatever. He had his flight canceled or whatever. I'm sick of hearing it. I think he's here because he doesn't want to face the music. He doesn't want to know that I'm better at him in this thing. I had a rather risky bet. I had an add-on bet. I took the Broncos and Steelers under 36. Never a doubt, never a sweat. The easiest bet of the week for myself. To be fair to James, he was also successful. He also had a winning week, so shout out to him. I just won a little bit more. So it is 1-1, and we're going to have a rubber match here in week 3. He's not joining me here this week, but I have his picks. I did ask for an explanation for a few of them that I totally disagree with, but there's a lot of them that I really, really love, and one in particular I think is going to be a great lock of the week for us and going to keep our streak going. We are going to start with the Patriots at the New York Jets. The Jets are 6-point favorites, and the over-under is set at 38.5. James's pick is taking the over. He actually found the over at 37.5, so that's one we'll go off of. We're always big fans of shopping our numbers. All the official numbers that I'm going to give you are just based off of DraftKings, which is the platform that I check these numbers off of. Jets offensively have the 5th lowest pressure rate on Aaron Rodgers, and a big part of that is because Aaron Rodgers gets rid of the ball extremely quickly. They are the 4th fastest time to throw in the NFL through 2 weeks. Pats have the 2nd worst pressure rate on offense, meaning Jacoby gets pressured a lot. Pats are the 4th slowest time to throw in the NFL, and the Jets have the fastest pressure rate defensively in the NFL. So I think this game is going to be won entirely in the trenches for the Jets. What's really impressive about the Jets' defensive pressure rate is their opponent's average time to throw is about middle of the pack. So they are getting to the quarterback, even though the quarterback on average that they're going up against throws the ball pretty efficiently, gets it out of his hands pretty efficiently. The one caveat, Sauce Gardner's had a bad start to his season. PFF, he's graded pretty low, and I don't really believe in defensive back rankings for PFF, but against the passer rating, so when he's targeted, the passer rating of the quarterback that's targeting him was perfect in Tennessee. The big part of this is Calvin Ridley just absolutely cooked Sauce Gardner for whatever reason in that game. I do expect him to bounce back. He had a fine week 1, and that was against the 49ers. So not an easy task there, put in a lot of bad situations. So I think Sauce will be fine. On the Patriots side of things, Hunter Henry is their entire offense. Pats are even a little bit more banged up on the offensive left tackle side of things. So that pressure rate isn't going to get any easier despite the Jets suffering a big injury on that defensive line. So Aaron Rodgers gets rid of the ball fast, and the Patriots are actually 10th best EPA when the quarterback does get the ball out fast. They are able to keep him in the box, which gets me off of this being my favorite bet of the week. I will actually pivot off of what James has recommended. He recommended the over, and I'm a little bit nervous about the Patriots covering that over. And at the same time, I think Jacoby Brissett does a pretty good job of taking care of the ball. So for that reason, I'm going to have to not take the over-under. I don't like it either way. I think that's a good number, the 38.5. So I'm going to pivot and take the Jets at -6. I think we're going to see a big boom, a big explosive performance out of the Jets. Braylon Allen's been awesome for this offense. I think they're going to keep on figuring out how to use him. Each week that passes, Mike Williams gets a little bit healthier, And Garrett Wilson's got off to a slow start for his standards. I think this is the game. This is the matchup for him to really hit the ground running. And just defensively, I think Sauce is going to bounce back for the Jets. And this pressure rate is going to be the deciding factor. The Jets are going to get home a lot on Jacoby. And I don't think he's going to throw a turnover. So that's the only thing that's keeping me off of the over here at 38.5. Next game on James's list, Bears at Colts. The Colts are 1.5 point favorites. The over-under set at 43.5. James has the Colts minus 130. Now, big thing here, Buckner is going to be out for the Colts. That's a bad news for them. However, the Bears haven't really been able to run the ball on anybody, so I don't think it's going to be a very big deal at all. The Bears O-line, the big deal about this is the Bears O-line gives up the worst pressure rate in the NFL and the worst quick pressure rate in the NFL, despite Caleb Williams getting rid of the ball the 5th fastest time to throw in the NFL, which is kind of surprising to me because you kind of think in your head all the highlights that you see or the lowlights that you see is Caleb holding on to the ball way too long. It turns out not to be the case. Keenan Allen is a question if he's going to be back or not. Odunze was back on the field. Not that it matters. Not that it'll ever matter with Odunze. I think he's going to be known as a bust based on where he was drafted. So we know the Colts offense is highly explosive, especially in week 1. They had 2 60-plus air yard catches in a game, which was like the first time in like a decade or whatever. The Bears actually do a pretty okay job of defending deep balls. They're 12th best in EPA per deep ball on defense, and they're 10th best in total yards per game in deep passes. I think the big difference in this game will be Jonathan Taylor. I think this will be kind of Jonathan Taylor's breakout. He has the 2nd highest in yards after contact in week 2. Bears have been the 8th worst in giving up yards after contact on the defensive side of things. I think Alec Pierce is totally underrated, and we might get some of Josh Downs back, maybe ease him in sort of game if he is back from his high ankle. So that's a free roll there for the Colts. So for that reason, I am going to take the Colts. I'm going to agree with James, except I'm going to do him one better. He took him at minus 130. I will take him at minus 1.5. So I'm going to take the spread instead of the money line. And that's how I'm going to beat James. I'm going to get the better line than him throughout the year. That was a part of how I beat him in week 2. James' next game that he has recommended, Packers at Titans. Titans are minus 3. They're 3-point favorites. And the over-under is set pretty low at 36.5 at the time that James recommended this pick. Now, we have gotten news that Jordan Love is making a push to play this week, which is a surprise to me. I'm not sure if I believe it, but he practiced today and he looked all right. And I don't think that they would have him up on that knee if it was a grade 2 strain. Sounds like it might have been pretty minor, despite of how bad it looked in real time and in slow motion while the tour doctors were picking it apart. Calvin Ridley last week, as we said, cooked Sauce Gardner, but he has yet to have any receiving yards against press coverage, and this is no new thing for him. He struggled against press coverage last season. Nixon would be on the Packers side of things, the press cover guy. He's pretty okay at it on press coverages last season. His given up passer rating when targeted was 89, so slightly below average, but nothing to write home about. Malik Willis completed 12 of 15 passes, so if he does start this game, he could be serviceable again. We haven't seen him since a rookie. Maybe he's just developed. We've seen these Packers develop players before. Not that Malik Willis has been a part of the team for any period of time, but he did have an impressive 8.1 yards per attempt. Low sample size, right? 15 passes, but he was efficient for what the Packers asked him to do. Jaden Reed is questionable at the moment. He's working through an injury. Will Levis plays much better at home, and it is in Tennessee, so you do have to take that in consideration. Last year on the road, his EPA was minus 21 versus at home, his EPA was minus 10. The line since James recommended this has moved to plus 105 in the assumption or in the chance that Jordan Love will be back. And I asked James, he said he still likes that number. He does. He still likes that number because he was basing his handicap off of Malik Willis starting. And I'm going to agree with him here. Plus 105, you're getting plus money. And in my opinion, if Jordan Love starts, I think the Packers are going to win this game outright, no matter what. If Malik Willis does get the start, I think the Packers are still a pretty good matchup. I think they will be able to shut Calvin Ridley down. I'm not too worried about this offense after him. Obviously, Will Levis has been an absolute roller coaster of a quarterback. Carson Wentzian in the way he doesn't take care of the football. He has been efficient. He's been pretty productive when he doesn't make those big mistakes, but those big mistakes keep happening. And I think the confidence for him personally will be at an all-time low in this game. Despite him being from home, I will take the kind of free dice roll on the Packers here. So I'm going to agree with him, although I got to admit I hate betting on this game. I think it's a pretty good number, and there's too many question marks in the air, but James recommended it, so I have a forced bet. I have to pick a side. So I'm going to have to agree with him there. You might want to pay close attention to this one because this is one of my favorite ones of the evening. Ravens at the Cowboys. The Ravens are 1.5-point favorites on the road against the Cowboys, and the over-under is set to 48.5. James likes the Ravens at the money line at -115. I think the Ravens O-line admittedly does need some help. I think Micah Parsons is going to be a big issue for this Ravens offensive line. But I think the more time they get together with these new pieces, the better they'll do with Harbaugh coaching them up, of course. Ravens offense has been good, but they haven't really been able to get Derrick Henry moving yet. Cowboys have also struggled on offense, though. Cowboys didn't have to do much on offense against the Browns, and then the Saints kind of shut them down, and I don't know who the Saints are at the moment. They could be awesome. They could just be a paper tiger at this point of the season with a slow sample size, but they look like they have a pretty competent defense. I do expect Dak to bounce back a little bit after his pretty horrendous performance last week against the Saints, where this Ravens offense is going to take advantage of this Cowboys team is in the run. Cowboys, who have played the Browns and the Saints, who are above average rush offenses, but I don't think are elite rush offenses, at least at this point of their season with Jerome Ford and at Alvin Kamara's later years. EPA per rush worst in the NFL defensively, the Cowboys are. The Ravens, despite playing the Raiders, who I think are going to pan out to be an awesome run-stopping team, and the Chiefs are 9th best in EPA per run. So I think Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are really going to roll against this Cowboys team. It's going to be another opportunity for the Ravens to work together as a unit, as an offensive line. This is, of course, Dak at home, which he did have the second best EPA per game last year, but I think he's going to be pretty effective. But I think the Ravens are just going to be able to pound the rock, and once they get the lead, they're not going to give it back. So if it's a -1.5, I'm going to go ahead and take that, and I'm going to take that as my lock of the week. Going to have a big breakout game for Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson will also run the piss out of the ball, and he has nothing to lose. There's nothing to hold back. They're 0-2, so they have the motivational advantage. Lamar's going to run the ball when he wants to instead of running the ball when he needs to. I think the Ravens win their first game. On paper, they've been all right. They just haven't been able to close the deal when it comes time to it. And I think the Cowboys ran into a pretty rusty Browns team there in week 1. The Browns hadn't played in the preseason whatsoever. Deshaun Watson looked horrible. He looked a little bit better in the following week. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens as my lock of the week. Next up on the slate, Lions at the Cardinals. The Lions are -4.5-point favorites. The over-under is high, set to 51.5. James likes the Cardinals money line at +125. How dare he, I say. Aiden Hutchinson has the second highest pressure to sack rate, meaning if he gets a pressure on the quarterback, he's been pretty lucky in accomplishing that sack. Now, I think a lot of that has to do with the improved defensive secondary for the Lions, and I think a lot of that just has to do with Aiden's ability to wrap up once he does get to the quarterback. We saw that with Baker Mayfield, him getting 5.5, which was really 6 sacks, in my opinion, in that game. Aiden, when he lays a hand on Kyler, similar to how I think what happened with Tampa Bay, he's going to wrap him up. he's going to take them down. Lions lose last week, so I think they have a motivational advantage going up against the Cardinals. Lions are the best rushing offense in the NFL, and they're best in EPA in rush in the NFL, despite only facing a light box on 36% of those carries, which is one of the lowest rates in the NFL. Cardinals utilize a light box on carries 62% of the time so far when their opponent runs, which is the sixth highest rate in the NFL. The Lions against the light box this year average 0.48, so half a point EPA per rush, meaning every 2 times they rush, on average, they score 1 football point. Okay. That's extremely high. That's insanely high. And I don't think the Cardinals are going to stop them. And if you want to stop this Lions team, you have to stop the run, or at least discourage the run like the Bucs did. The Bucs are obviously, with Vita Vea, one of the hardest teams to run the football against, at least in between the tackles. So Lions avoided it. They're not going to avoid it against the Cardinals, especially if they present them with a light box. I think the Lions are built to exploit a light box, if you know what I'm saying. I get it. Kyler Murray, Arizona Cardinals offense are all the way back. They look incredible, but a big part of that is going to be set up by their run game with James Conner, with Kyler Murray, and a few design runs every game, and the Lions can stop it. Okay, the Lions can stop it. Aiden's going to make those big plays when he needs to, and those big plays are going to turn into a win. So I don't love the number at 4.5, but I'm forced to bet it because James said I want the Cardinals in this game. So I'm going to disagree with him here. I'm going to take -4.5 Lions to cover that spread on the road. Next game up on the list is going to be Jags at Buffalo. The Bills are 5.5 or 5-point favorites. The over-under is set at 45.5 points. James actually sold some points here, and he wants the Bills at -6.5 plus 115. So he's like, you can keep that, or you can get me all the way to that key number of 7. And I got to admit, I love where his head's at. The Bills and the Jags have a common opponent in the Dolphins, okay? And the Jags are starting with an 0-2 start. The Bills were blowing out the Dolphins even before Tua went off the field with his scary head injury. Jags made Deshaun Watson look comfortable, and I think that was sort of a bounce-back game for Deshaun to some aspects. Amari Cooper got open a couple of times and should have made the catch. He was wide open down the field where Jags kind of lucked out. And I don't think they're going to really luck out against Josh Allen, who will just put the team on his back, play hero ball when he needs to. And the Bills have blown out 2, I think, pretty solid football teams so far this season. Josh Allen, second place in the league in EPA behind Kyler. And Trevor Lawrence, for comparison, is 19th in the league in EPA. One thing to note, we don't know if Evan Ingram is going to be a part of this game. Bills are built to blow out teams. So for that reason, I'm going to take Bills at -5.5. I'm not going to bet it all the way out to 6.5 like James. I'm happy and content with betting it at the 5 number. All right, in the final 2 games, Commanders at the Bengals. The Bengals, I think, we've said it before, can't keep getting away with it. They are a poverty organization. They don't deserve a Super Bowl contending team year after year. And I think we're finally seeing them get their comeuppance. Bad vibes, according to NFL Insider James, out of camp from day one with their receiver room. Jamar Chase has been horrible, and the rest of the passing offense hasn't been much better outside of Mike Gesicki. Bengals are the 8th worst defensively in EPA per run. Commanders are one of the best. They're 4th best offensively in EPA per run. And it's basically going to be a copy and paste of what I thought last week when we bet on the Commanders as my lock of the week. Is if you're going to beat this Commanders team, you're going to have to stop the run, and they can pass. Okay, that run sets up the pass, and for that reason, the Commanders are 10th best in EPA per pass attempt on offense, which is like, whoa, Jaden Daniels is good. And I think he is. I don't know what it is with this Bengals offense, whether it's the lack of practice with the team. Bengals always seem to start off slow. Joe Burrow still got this wrist that he's kind of working out. I think the water bottle thing was like whatever, but I don't think the wrist is really feeling as good as a lot of people would like you to think it is. I think on paper, Commanders are a better football team. At least in EPA, they are on offense. The Commanders, I will say, are the worst EPA team on defense. They did play Baker Mayfield in week 1, so hopefully that has something to do with it. I do expect Joe Burrow to have a little bit of a bounce back game because let's be real, this Commanders defense can get got through the air. But getting 6.5, if you're a Commanders backer, I like starting the game there. So I'm going to take the Commanders. I'm not going to take the money line like James likes it, but I am going to take the Commanders at plus 6.5. I think they cover that spread. I think they do it pretty easily. And that's it. Leave your lock of the week in the comment section, and I will make note of it and give you a pat on the back or a spank on the butt if it is wrong. My name is Jamie Jakes. Please subscribe to the channel. We will be back next week to see who won this week, the idiot or the insider. And I think we all know who it's going to be. It's going to be me, but I think we're going to hit that lock of the week and keep our streak alive going in to week 4. So stay tuned. If you like what you saw, please share it with your friend. If you didn't like what you saw, leave a comment why you didn't like it and share it with your enemy. My name's Jamie Jakes. We'll see you next time.